Shalom, peace and love. Just observed Passover earlier. I, um, I came to I came to understand that the true biblical New Year begins on the first full moon of the break of spring, and I came to understand that the true new moon, the true biblical new moon, is a full moon. And I don't see nothing written that would convince me otherwise. Let's get into it. So, the book of Exodus, book of Exodus, chapter 12, it reads, And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron in the land of Mizraim, saying, verse 2, This new moon is the beginning of new moons for you. It is the first new moon of the year for you. So, yeah, verse 3 says, Speak to all the congregation of Yisrael, saying, before I get into that, where it speaks about the Passover, appreciate it. Thanks for the sub. Y'all bless. May y'all bless you. So the where it speaks about the new year, the true biblical new year, and the first new moon of the new year, it basically explains to us like how before Passover, right before Passover and right around the time where the trees start budding and blooming and flowers start showing and leaves start growing. This is the time where we should be looking for that new moon. That new moon we should be, you know, observing, and the way we observe it, most the traditional, folks, the traditional way of them observing that new moon is is looking for a silhouette moon, like some form of moon that is just like it's not easy to see. But the scriptures doesn't tell us to look for a moon that's hard to see. The scripture tells us that a moon is you're going to be able to see a moon. And the description of a moon is a lesser light. It can't be a moon if it doesn't have a light. It can't be a moon if it's not a light. So if the moon doesn't have a light and the moon isn't clearly showing itself, it can't be considered a new moon. And let me look this let me look this up. Give me a minute. So yeah, I believe I came to the, I've taken what I've come to the conclusion is that the true biblical new moon is a full moon, one that can be identified, one that can be seen. And we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into, where the Bible speaks of this. So yeah, Exodus, Exodus 12, Exodus 12 is it um where it gets into the new year. But the verse, it says basically, in Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron in the land of Mizraim, saying, verse 2, this new moon is the beginning of new moons for you. It is the first new moon of the year for you. So that's one description. And we got Psalms 81 verse 3. And I believe that's gonna that breaks down a word that is, that's highly questionable, because it's supposed to mean one thing, but it's interpret, you know something else. It's interpreted in a whole nother way. Psalms chapter 81 verse 3 reads, it says, blow a shofar in the new moon, in the covering for the day of our festival. So what's what's being what's been debated was that that word is supposed to mean hidden, as if the moon was hidden, and so the covering of for the day of our festival, if the moon is hidden in the covering of a day of our festival, then if it's covered and is slightly hidden, it wouldn't show light. And that's usually what the moon gives off around Passover. It kind of it's kind of hidden. It doesn't give off light. You know, it's almost like a it's almost like a what I'm trying to, one second, trying I have a loss of the word right now, but I'm about to look into it. It's almost like an eclipse, but we just, as far as like the details, these are the three scriptures that you know describes the new year and the new moon. And it's Exodus chapter 12, Psalms 81 verse 3, and Numbers chapter 28 verse 11. And in Psalms chapter 81 verse 3, there's a word called Kadesh, or Akish or something like that. I'm about to tell you exactly what it is. One second. So one one moment. So forgive me, but here's my notes. There's a word because I was debating this with someone. So yeah, casse. Forgive me for the timing, but casse is the word used, in Psalms 81 verse 3, and it's supposed to mean cover, conceal, or hide. That's what the word supposed to mean. And if the moon is covered, concealed, or hidden, truly, you know, then Passover lands because it says blow a shofar, for the feast in our new moon, after our new moon. So if the word means cover, then but you have traditional belief, they believe that that means it's covered with a light. I don't know how you cover a moon with a light that's already a light. You don't cover a light that's already a light. That's already a light. It's the lesser light. So you don't need to cover. It's not covered with what it already has. It already has light. So if the light is covered, then you know it wouldn't show any light. You know what I mean? It wouldn't show any light if the light was covered. And that's what's that pretty much confuses has confused, most people for, you know, centuries. I don't know how long it's been going on, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Because if the moon is a lesser light, it's supposed to be the lesser light according to the book of Genesis. If the moon's supposed to be the lesser light according to the book of Genesis, chapter chapter 1, you know, chapter 1 verse 16, it says, "And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and a lesser light to rule the night, and the stars." So if the moon's supposed to be a light, it's the lesser light. It's clearly the lesser light. It's the moon. It's not as bright as the sun, and it that shows that it's a lesser light. The sun is clearly the greater light, and it rules the day, and it only is only seen during daytime. The moon is clearly the lesser light because it's a lesser light than the sun, and it rules at nighttime. So that's established, is that the moon is the lesser light. Now, the controversy is, the controversial word is kasheh, the Hebrew word kasheh, Kesheh. And it's a verse written in Psalms 81 verse 3. And it's basically says, it says let's read it. So it says, blow a shofar in the new moon in the covering for the day of our festival. So where it says that, blow a covering, blow a shofar for the, blow a shofar in the new moon in the covering for the day of our festival. So, like, the day of our festival is supposed to be this covering of the moon. When the moon is covered, it's supposed to be, you know, that should be the day of the festival. And in most cases, I'm going to look at the moon tonight and see what kind of moon it is. Let's see what kind of moon it is tonight. Like, because if the moon is covered, it's a waning crescent. It's a waning crescent, roughly 18% illuminated. You know, it's a waning crescent. That's what it's saying. Now let me try to get a more accurate. Let me try to get a more accurate look at it. Yeah. So this is the moon. This is the moon in my area tonight. This is what the moon looks like in my area tonight. And that's covered. That's how it's covered. That's what the word kese, you know, is describing. It describes, it says blow a shofar. blow a shofar in the new moon, in the covering for the day of our festival. So that's where, this is where most people are, most observers are, m- they're misinterpreting and misunderstanding what the scripture is saying. Like they're just pretty much, taken away from what it says, what it doesn't say, and just ignoring what it does, is ignoring what it says, and basically taking from it was it what it doesn't say. And says, you know, it says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. The key detail most people miss, the Hebrew word uses there is keshe. Many scholars translate it as full moon or covered moon. So this is where people believe that's the full moon. A covered moon is not a full moon. I don't know who I don't know who would even think that, or come up with that, or come away with that. A covered moon is a covered light. The moon is a light. So when you think about a covered moon, you have to think about a covered light. So when you look up to see the moon, you want to see that it's covered. You want to see that the light is covered. So if the light isn't covered, that's not a full moon. So that's what Psalms 81 verse 3. People, most scholars, their takeaway from that is that's where the scriptures identify a full moon. And the word keseh is supposed to be the description of a full moon. The word keseh is supposed to mean covered, or full phase. But if you taking it as, if the word keseh means covered or concealed, hidden, then that would be a hidden light, a covered light, a concealed light, in which and would be given off like a crescent light, like it would be given off, um a form of crescent, almost, hidden light. You know what I mean? Hidden moon. And, so I don't know who came up with that. You know, I don't know who came up with, that being the description of a full moon. You know what I mean? I don't understand what they meant by that, or how they came up with that. Like, that's, if the word kesa, if the Hebrew word is kesa, if the Hebrew word is kesa, and the Hebrew word kesa means hidden, concealed, covered, that would make the moon hidden, concealed, and covered around the time of the festival. So, and my thing is, a new moon, a true new moon, is when the moon show its full self. I can't accept a new moon being less than the light of its full form. It's the lesser light, but its full form, it's a full moon. Its true form, whereas though it's giving off its, greatest light, is its greatest of a lesser light, is when it's a full moon. So one can only take away that when it's a full moon, when its fullest, when it's at its fullest form, it has to be a new moon. It has to be a new moon. So this is why I believe our biblical new year was 14 days ago, on the 29th. Our biblical new year, no, not the 29th, on the 30th. I want to say that the 31st. I'm sorry, on the 31st. Yeah, on the 31st. So the 31st was our true biblical new year, according to the first new moon, the first true biblical full new moon, which is a full moon, according to that showing itself on the 31st of March of last month. So yeah, that's why I observed Passover earlier, according to, you know, the 14 days counted after the 31st. The 14 days counted after the first new moon of the season changing. Once you see the Aviv, the blooming of the flowers, and the budding of the branches, the first new moon after that is the full is the first the first full moon after that is the new moon. First full moon after that will be the new moon, and that will mark the first day of the year. So March 31st was the new year, April 13th, Passover. April 14th, April 14th, unleavened bread. Uh, the first fruits is April 19th. Pentecost, June 7th. Trumpets, September 27th. Atonement, October 6th. And Tabernacles, October 11th to October 18th. And that's the new moon. That's based on the biblical new moon being the full moon. Yeah. Way. That's why I observed Passover earlier, according to the new moon, the new year being a full moon 14 days ago. Mm, Forgive my type, and I'm I'm just looking up information because I this is so yeah. So yeah, April 13th sunset was the 14th day. So yeah, Passover begins April 13th at sunset. And that's according to the scriptures. That's according to the scriptures. Now, I want to get into where does the Bible tells us to observe the new year or identify the new year, to identify the new year by Habib. Blooming of branches and blooming of flowers. So that we're in scripture. We want to know where in scripture. And I'm using AI because it's quicker. AI is quicker than anything right now, like Google, like so it'll tell me exactly where something is written. So this is an exact correction type This is an excellent correction type question because now you're testing what does the Bible actually say versus what people infer or build around it. Let's answer it directly, honestly. Does the Bible say use budding trees and flowers to determine the new year? And it says no. It does not say that directly. There is no verse that commands look for flowers blooming, look for trees budding, use that to start the year. So this is traditional. What the Bible actually says about New Year, the only clear indicator given, Exodus 13:4. This day came ye out in the month of Abib. In Exodus chapter 9:31, the barley was in the air. Hmm. Meaning of Abib, barley in the air, ripening stage, not flowers, not trees. Where do flowers and trees come from? There is the verse people, including earlier in our Convo Connect Song of Solomon 2:11-13. The winters pass, the flowers appear, the fig tree puts forth. So there is some indications of identifying the new year by the earth and this the changing of in the blooming of the flowers and budding of the branches. And he says, but here's the truth. This is poetry, a seasonal description, not a command about the calendar. So what is actually commanded? Let's simply let's simplify it. Explicit command level. Month equals Abib, barley condition. Month begins with not commanded, trees budding, flowers blooming, local environment outside the land. Where the confusion comes from. People reason like this: if barley is ready, it must be spring. If it's spring, flowers must be blooming. So they reverse it. Flowers equals new year. That's an inference, not scripture. Your system, what needs adjusting? You said identify new year by a bee, meaning budding flowers. That part needs correction. Biblical accurate. A bee equals barley condition only. A bee equals barley condition only. Not accurate. A bee equals trees, flowers. That's my mistake. AI is just correcting me. Clean biblical model, no additions. Check barley in Israel. Identify moon timing. That determines month one. Can you still use local spring sign? Yes, but only as general season awareness, not a deciding factor. Why? Because blah, blah, blah equals, Israel climate is different from our climate. Trees, flowers vary widely. You'll drift off the biblical timing. Final answer, clear and direct. The Bible does not tell us to identify the new year by budding branches, blooming flowers. It does tell us month of Abib, barley in the air, lunar cycle timing. Final insight, important for your whole system. You were trying to build three witnesses: earth, sky, environment. That's thoughtful, but biblically. The only grounded earthly sign given is barley. My honest recommendation to you, if you want to stay close to scripture, anchor your system on Abib, barley, primarily, moon, barley in the moon, and treat flowers, trees equals supporting observation only. If you want next, we can go even deeper. I can show you early place Abib appears and prove its meaning strictly from scripture. Yeah, let's get into the word Abib. Perfect. This is exactly how you lock in. So I asked them, let's, pretty much it says this is exactly how you lock in. It says what Abib actually means. Key verse, Exodus 13:4. This day came ye out in the month of Abib. Definition from usage, not guesses. Abib equals a stage of barley. Specifically, barley has heads, ears formed. Grain is soft, filling, not fully dry yet, but harvest is near. Proof from scripture, Exodus 9:31. The barley was in the air. The phrase in the air equals Abib stage. What is barley? Barley is a grain crop like wheat, but earlier. One of the first harvests of the year, used for bread and first fruit offerings. Connected to feast, Leviticus 23:10, first fruits equals first harvest of the land. Why barley matters for the new year? Because Passover plus first fruits require. Okay, okay. Passover plus first fruits require harvest ready grain. Logic. If barley is not ready, you can't offer first fruits. That makes sense. If barley is not ready, you can't offer first fruits, which is, the seventh, eighth day of Passover week. So it can't be the first month yet. Every place Abib appears. Let's list them. Exodus 13:4, Exodus 13:4. Month name equals Abib. Exodus 23:15. Feast of Unleavened Bread, the month of Abib. Hmm. So in the month of barley. So this is how we identify the first year in the month of barley. Once you start seeing barley, that's the year. Exodus 34:18 again ties Abib to feast timing. Deuteronomy 16:1 observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover. Important observation. The Bible never defines Abib with flowers, trees. All right, yeah, that's my mistake. It always connects Abib to Passover harvest timing, barley conditions. Where do you look for Abib? Answer. In Israel. In Israel. Why? Because all commands were given to Israel. Feasts are tied to the land, agriculture there. Proof Leviticus 23:10. When you come into the land and reap the harvest. Yep. Not wherever you live, but the land they were given. So yes, this is according to the land that was, you know, it's according to the land all commands was given in. Should you check in your area not for determining a year, because your area climate doesn't equal Israel's climate. Crops mature at a different time. You can observe locally for general awareness learning seasons, but not calendar authority. Your final clean system corrected. Check barley in Israel. Confirm it is Abib stage. Use your moon rule. So there you have it. So whenever we have barley in Israel, the first new moon after that barley is showing itself. When you get barley conditions, first new moon after that, the first full moon after that is the new moon. And the new moon equals the full moon equals a new moon. Full moon equals a new moon, and that's when you start to count. 14 days from there, you have Passover, which what we have now. To, I observed Passover earlier due to 14 days ago it being a full moon after barley. After barley was observed, barley conditions was observed in Israel. So that's all I have. That's all I came here to speak on. Uh guess I'll log into I guess I'll go live again tomorrow. Until next time, peace, love, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, peace and love.